Knon 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to knon.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
Good morning and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink and Lerone Landis. And our guest today is Assistant City Manager Theresa O'Donnell. Theresa, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And it's afternoon.
And it is afternoon. I'm sorry.
Savings time.
After several years, I cannot get used to, well, plus it was daylight savings time. So.
Yeah. True that.
But it would still be afternoon. I know that. I'm trying to make an excuse as to why I can't figure out that we're on in the afternoon again. Theresa O'Donnell is the person responsible for writing the resolution that passed City Hall, the City Council this week. And
what resolution was that?
Well, I was just going to ask that. Explain what the resolution actually does. It's nothing real specific. It's a kind of broad resolution, but it's, I think, an amazing document. It takes in just about anything we could be concerned with in the gay community.
Right. I did that along with one of my colleagues, John Rogers, who is an attorney at the City of Dallas and writes most of the legislation and ordinances for the City of Dallas. And so John and I collaborated on that and worked to put it together. What it does really, we've called it the Comprehensive Statement of Support. And some people have said, well, what is that really? Is it a feel-good thing or does it actually do something for the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community? And I'm proud to say that it actually does something. We worked with the task force for many, many months and came up with this kind of umbrella resolution that gives the city manager and the city council very specific direction to accomplish a number of things in three broad categories. One category is making Dallas a better place for their LGBT employees, like myself and John. The second category is making Dallas a more inclusive, welcoming city and for all their residents and visitors. And the third one is to use Dallas's legislative and lobbying powers to lobby on behalf of anti-discrimination and things that eliminate disparity among LGBT citizens in the state of Texas. So and nationally, and they wanted that to be a national conversation as well.
Okay, so one of the questions that one of our city council people had was, why doesn't this just apply to everybody?
Well, because not everyone's discriminated against at the City of Dallas.
I have to say that was just over the top for me, because the way it came across was that we had more rights than everybody else, and that everybody should have access to the rights, all these rights we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that was the disparity. I'm like, no, everybody else has these, but we're lower. We need to come up to where everybody else is.
I think that is part of that misinformation that the conservative religious people in the state continue to say that gay lesbian people are looking for special rights.
Right.
And one of the big pieces of this work that we've been doing over the last several months has been education, and clearly that was enough to convince 13 of the council members, but not 15. But it does show the power of education.
You know, it's funny. The two votes against. One of them, Von Seal, isn't going to vote for anything if it has anything gay, HIV, whatever. For one promotion for HIV testing, there was a big billboard put up in her district,
Right.
and she went ballistic. You know, how dare they? And no, Von Seal, it's because your district has one of the highest rates of HIV in the city, and that's why we're doing testing in your district. And you need to get behind this. And it's not a gay issue at all. But she's not going to vote for any. You talked to her about other things. Have you actually had intelligent conversations with her?
Oh yes, she's a very intelligent woman.
Yeah.
Yes, she's a lawyer, she's a judge, and she's a minister. She has a degree in both theology and a law degree. She's a highly intelligent woman. She's just she's just conservative, very religiously
When it comes to
conservative.
this issue, there is not an intelligent word out of her mouth. There are such blinders. You talk to her about anything else, she can be a delight to talk to.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, what was some of for those of us, who weren't able to attend the City Hall meetings, what were some of the reasons against this resolution? I mean, we all hear, or was it the same stuff that we hear nationally, the same reasons?
I thought it was the same stuff.
It's the same stuff. It's the same stuff that LGBT people are looking for special rights, which couldn't be further from the truth. We're just looking for the same rights as everyone else.
Okay.
Though I'm sure it was translated to them. This would not affect them at all.
Yeah.
The resolution.
Yes.
We have a phone guest. Phone caller, are you there?
We're here.
Can't hear.
Okay. You know what? Everybody doesn't have headphones. Just a second. Okay, Philip, are you there?
I'm here.
What was it that you wanted to say or ask our guest?
I just wanted to know what she's done to get these special rights other than just be gay.
As you well know, Mr. Kingston. So we do have an additional wardrobe allowance that straight city employees don't get.
Oh no! Good answer.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask, since this is City Councilman Philip Kingston, one of the special rights that I thought we should have at City Hall is parking, special parking.
Gay parking?
Yeah, why not?
I don't even know what that looks like, but I'm on board.
Oh, well, what it would look like is, how they have special handicap stickers? I'd have my little pink triangle sticker, and
There's something
I'd have parking
about
right up front.
making people have pink triangles on that I think won't fly. I think somebody tried that once.
Well, then, Philip, could we at least get a special Uber account just for city?
Yeah, I can pull that off in a heartbeat.
Ooh, Uber. Ooh.
Hey, Adam and I just wanted to call in to, you probably have gone over it, just reiterate what a great job Theresa and John Rogers from the City Attorney's Office, who worked on this project, did on this deal. Made our lives a lot easier, and the outcome, I think, is fantastic. We just actually had lunch with Catherine Oakley from the Human Rights Campaign, the lawyer that came down to testify when we had the last budget, finance, and audit meeting, and she could not have been more congratulatory. She's really thrilled about things that are going on in Dallas, and we owe a lot of that to our excellent staff.
Philip, one thing I wanted to say is that you've only been on City Council 10 months, and so I'm not sure what you have to say really is relevant, because you haven't had time to study the issue.
Frankly, I think that what you're supposed to do is wait 2 full terms before opening your mouth. If I'm understanding the instructions I've been given. That's what I was told.
I think those are the instructions. And now, where that comes from is at a city council meeting, the meeting before they actually voted to approve this resolution. One of our favorite council, we mentioned her by name already, Von Seal, berated Philip. He was talking, and they were debating some of the Trinity River project, and they were on opposite sides of the issues. So, yeah.
Well, there's words to live by.
Yeah, yeah. So.
It's all about debate. At least we're having a debate.
And I think Mr. Kingston brings up a really good point that HRC was willing to bring Miss Oakley down. I thought her participation, along with Joel Burns' participation at that last committee briefing, was fabulous. I really think that gave us just tremendous momentum to move this forward.
Yeah. So, Philip, how are you going
to the area, of course, and he's been. I think he played a great role in that. In just, you see a guy who's a leader, and both in terms of his town and the LGBT community, and comes and tells you exactly the practical results of supporting equality. I like it.
So I guess I should ask you some of the questions. Why shouldn't these things just apply to everybody? Why should trans people who work for the city who find out they have cancer, why should they get treatment? And if you work for a supervisor who thinks that homosexuality is just sick, isn't it okay to just call in gay for work?
Oh, that's such a good idea, David. You're so creative. I'm glad you're not one of our employees, but you're very creative.
And that's probably the first time a city council person has actually said it out loud, that they're glad I don't work for the city.
That's why we love Philip.
Right.
Well, Philip, thank you for calling in.
Well, thanks for doing this show, and Theresa, good job.
And
Thank
Adam
you.
is there
Thank you
too?
very much.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Adam, did you want to?
We're actually in D.C. at the National League of Cities.
Oh, don't tell them where we are, geez.
Well, it's okay. we're doing work, so it's fine with me. We're in D.C. at National League of Cities, and we are actually just left a Glibet-Low meeting with the gay, lesbian, bi, transgender local elected officials, and we're members of that board. And that's where we saw Catherine and Joel was there as well, and they got up and told the group the work we're doing in Dallas. So they shared it with the group, which made me proud of everyone there. And I want to say thank you to the task force, Patti, and everyone, Omar, everyone else that worked to get this done. And also, Theresa, thank you and John so much for your work and helping us get this accomplished. But again, I guess we'll be back in Dallas on Wednesday. I just wanted to say thank you. And this is an opportunity to say it to on air. So I just want to thank y'all so much for your hard work.
Well, thank you both for calling in.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, have a great show.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
And both of you need to be on again. This is our official invitation.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Good.
Wow, that was nice.
Yeah, that is very nice.
Very
Well, can we talk a little bit about, I guess, some of the specifics of the resolution, how it's going to be implemented?
Sure. So there are some very specific things. One is looking at the city's pension plans for their civilian employees and their police and fire, and eliminating the disparities in those. Those specifically are the survivor benefits. So if a heterosexual couple dies, they have survivor benefits, and homosexual employees don't have the same kind of rights. So that.
And just in a real simple fashion, the city and the employee put money into the pension fund.
Right.
And then when you retire and you start tapping that, you have a bucket of money, and that gets planned out for how long they think you're going to live.
Right.
And it's spanned out and paid to you.
Right.
But when you die, you want that to go to your partner.
Right.
To your spouse.
Right.
Which doesn't cost the city a dime.
Yes, it's my money.
It's your money.
So I ought to be able. So like right now, if I walked outside the station, got hit by that DART train, my father would get my pension. Well, I have a wife and 2 children. I want I want my family to have my pension,
As
not
you
my
should.
dad. My dad's 83. He doesn't need my pension. You know, I need my wife and my kids to have my pension. So that's one very specific thing. The other very specific thing is the FMLA. So, you know, when you have a medical emergency, or your partner has a medical emergency and you need to have protected time off, I'm not talking about vacation time, but, you know, keep your job protected, it's federal protection. That doesn't extend to LGBT partners, you know. So again, I could take FMLA time for my dad or for my sister, but I couldn't take it for my own wife.
Right.
Well, that's not right. And in fact, when my partner, we have 2 little girls, and at both times when both of our daughters were born, my FMLA was denied.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's
So-
a big reason.
Wait, you mean like to take off for like that 3 months?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Because, and so that's something is to fix that. Now, there's some complications with that because of state law, the state constitutional ban on marriage says you can't create something that kind of looks like marriage. So, but there's this 1+. So you can be an employee +1, and you can identify your +1. So my wife would be my +1, right? So there's ways to kind of work around that until the until the Fifth Circuit does the right thing. And
I was just a little surprised about that because I was in the same situation. My husband and I have a daughter, but we both were able to take off and were paid for the 3 months.
well, being able to take the time off and having your job protected while you take the time off are two different things. Just like John was kind of teasing about, if you have a supervisor who's gay friendly and understands your situation and is a decent human being, basically, you will be allowed that vacation time. But the question is whether or not your job is protected while you're gone.
Gotcha.
And the FMLA, as defined by the federal government, is a minimum.
It's a minimum.
So employers
It is a
can offer above that if they so desire, just with any kind of benefit.
And there are different arrangements that you can make. We're going to talk about that a little bit off. We're talking to Assistant City Manager Theresa O'Donnell. The words are only coming out today. And we'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
This is Janice McCall from TCU, and I listen to the Lambda Week on 89.3 KNON FM, Dallas.
And let's do this coherently this time. I'm Dave Taffet. This is Lambda Weekly. I'm here with the late Patti Fink and Lerone Landis. Our guest today is Assistant City Manager Theresa O'Donnell. We were just talking, we have Theresa on today because this week Dallas City Council passed a very all-encompassing resolution that basically says there are lots of ways that we know that our gay and lesbian employees and our gay and lesbian residents in the city are not treated equally. Let's fix those things. And one thing you specifically did was not specifically look for what those things are, but it's more of a sense of the city council resolution, right?
Yes.
And that would be fair to say that that the city council just wants you to fix those things. Some things will have to go before the council, and those things will get fixed. One of the things we were just talking about was FMLA.
FMLA. One of the other kind of broad, kind of overarching policies is the HRC's MEI, the Municipal Equality Index. That's very much like the Corporate Equality Index that we all use to shop and, for consumer kind of things. We want to see who are good employers and who are good retailers, and so and I think HRC's been doing the Corporate Equality Index for 15 years or so.
Something like that, yeah.
And in the last 2 or 3 years, they've started an equivalent for cities and municipal agencies, and it's called the MEI. And Catherine will tell you, it's a flagrantly rip off.
Flagrantly.
Yes. Flagrantly ripped off the CEI, and so it's the same kind of thing. It goes in and ranks cities on a number of different things, and you can get a score from 0 to 100. And by doing a number of things for your employees and your residents and your visitors, you can improve your score. So Dallas has scored this first time, I think we ranked in the 60s, and then we kind of climbed up to about the 80s.
The first one's I believe a 76.
Yeah. And so we're steadily climbing, and so there.
I don't think it started at 76. We got it up to that by pointing out certain things that we did. It was a little bit lower than that, got it to 76 for the first year. This year it climbed a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things in the council resolution was to work on improving that score.
Right.
So that has a lot of stuff kind of baked into it. We can kind of dissect that and look at different things that city can do to improve our relationship so that we can score higher.
And one thing, having worked with and served on committees and the Board of Governors for the National Human Rights Campaign. The CEI, the Corporate Equality Index, is available online, and you can go read it. And so the Municipal Equality Index is there as well at hrc.org. But it's a moving target every year.
Yeah.
And so, the City of Dallas is going to have to work to maintain, much less improve.
Right.
Because criteria are made more explicit, criteria are added so that it's fully trans inclusive, and all of those kinds of, the going things in terms of benefits are expansive and equal across all of us. So it's going to be a lot of work.
Right.
With Dallas being a top 10 city, how does it fare against the other cities?
Well, we're behind Fort Worth, if that tells you anything.
Wow, and Fort Worth's not a top 10 city.
Actually, Fort Worth is 15 right now. It's a top 20 city. But
So Austin scored a perfect 100, so we kind of all expect Austin to score a perfect 100, and we're in the low 80s, so we want to improve that score. And I think actually passing this resolution, we should get a couple of points for that.
Yeah,
we should get points for that. Yeah.
What was the final vote on the resolution?
13-2.
13-2.
Well, I think that sends a loud and clear message, just overwhelmingly.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's kind of ironic, though, or I don't know, significant, that on May 8th, 2002, when the City of Dallas City Council passed the non-discrimination ordinance for residents and citizens of Dallas, that it was a 13-2 vote as well.
Really?
Also.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Wow.
Yeah. So it was a lot of interesting work to work with all the members to get it there. But it was very exciting that they, on the day of the vote, it was just so exciting.
Now,
We saw the yeses.
certain things that that the city does for its employees will help with the MEI score.
Right.
One of those will be FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act leave. You were talking, Theresa, about how you were not able to get FMLA. Explain, because we were talking off mic a minute. Explain how, even though it was a daughter that was born, you weren't able to get the leave.
So in Texas, I have no legal relationship to my own daughter. Isn't that?
That's nuts.
That's nice.
Yeah,
It's real nice.
It's tragic, it really is. I have no legal relationship to my daughter. So, really, even before this past summer, when DOMA was struck down, I had no legal relationship to my daughter in the eyes of the federal government either. So I couldn't open a 509 college savings plan for my daughter. Now I could do that for my nephew, but not for my daughter. That's not right. That's just not right. So, I think we're coming a long way and starting to...
So that points out something that makes a lot of sense, where conservatives especially, they believe in more personal responsibility, and why don't you just get all the paperwork done, and it doesn't matter that paperwork, to get it for a normal couple, to get all the paperwork done is about $1,000, whereas a marriage license is $75. You can't even open that a savings account for your daughter, even though you would like to pay for as much of your daughter's education and not rely on scholarships from other people. They're not letting you do that.
Right.
Lerone, how did you did get FMLA leave?
Yeah, and so did Danny.
And how did you do that?
I mean, it was just a matter of applying for it, and
But
we have a daughter also, for those who don't know, and both of us are on the birth certificate. I mean, so as far as we've been told, we both have legal connection to our daughter, even in the state of Texas. My daughter wasn't born here in the state of Texas. That's how that happened.
But you did that purposely.
I did that purposely. Several attorneys and judges I've spoke with have said, a birth certificate will be recognized anywhere. So, and that's kind of what happened up in Oklahoma. Forgot the case, but birth certificates will be recognized anywhere.
Wow.
So that's how we were able to do it. But I didn't realize, I kind of assumed that even if Danny or I was not on the birth certificate, that just telling our employer that we had a kid and we're having a kid, we need to take off for it, they would have granted. Maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, and you weren't working for the city also, so...
No, I was not.
Yeah, but that is one of the things that'll be resolved in the same way, that you'll be able to take off the time that you need.
Well, I was going to ask you, what...
Well, I think that just kind of points to all the confusion. One of the things I really am grateful for in having to work through this process is all this education that I got myself doing research for the council committees and about what a confusing tangle of mess all the laws are right now, with marriage being legal in some states and not in other states, and the IRS and those rules recognizing people no matter where you are, because it recognizes marriage or birth certificates at the point of celebration.
Right.
And then some things like Social Security and that recognizes your status at where you live. So it's just so confusing right now. And I understand from reading some of the political pundits and the scholars in this research, they hope that all this should be straightened out within the next couple of years, because it's very confusing.
Well, in addition, you mentioned Doman, that was thrown out by the Supreme Court last summer. Since then, we've had 6 other great rulings in 6 different states,
including Texas now,
including Texas, that said marriage, banning same-sex marriage is unconstitutional. Do you think that the passage of this resolution would have happened had it not been for those things?
Yes, I think it would. And in fact, I think there was some...
And that's not to shortchange the work that stuff like people that Patti have done.
No, they worked very, very hard. And
yes.
However, I think that there are a number of people on the city council, particularly Mr. Kingston, Mr. Medrano, and Mr. Griggs, who wanted to be on the right side of history. They wanted to make a statement. They wanted the council to pass a statement before the courts did.
Good.
And I just have to do a huge shout out to Council Member Jerry Allen.
Oh, yeah.
From District 10, because he has just been such an incredible leader on this.
He's the one who actually brought this up, isn't he?
Yes, he has turned out to be the unexpected champion of LGBT rights in Dallas. I'm so proud of him. Yeah,
I'm so proud of him as well. And he chairs the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee, through which this resolution arose, and through which it will be governed, basically, and monitored.
Yeah.
And I'm just thrilled, that he's embraced our community in the way that he has, and really shown just stellar leadership.
And it was his idea to bring Mrs. Oakley down from D.C. because he wanted Dallas to be in the national conversation about this. And when we'd started with just the marriage resolution, and he really, after he became educated and he started asking questions and learning more, he understood that this was bigger than a single kind of event or a single issue, and he wanted something broad. He wanted kind of a roadmap for how to address all, a laundry list of things, just not putting all your eggs in one basket on one particular topic. So yeah, he was a real champion on this.
He was fantastic. And will continue to be, no doubt.
Yeah.
Before it got actually to council for vote, the council went into executive session, and I'm not asking you to break confidences on this and what kind of questions were asked, but what were the topics that there was any confusion about that people wanted clarified? Were they worried about, does this create special rights? Were they worried, is this legal under some of the rulings that especially Abbott has made?
I'm going to let Theresa off the hook here.
Thank
we
you.
can just do we look at the previous one that was discussed at the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee that passed out to the council, and then we look at the resulting one that was passed by the full council. And we see there were very relatively minor changes. They've included the pension board in that loop in the resolution, so I think that's very empowering. It's clear to everybody that the city council expects the city manager's office and the council and the pension board to work together to make this happen.
And I wasn't asking how we're getting through particularly, but and this is what I'm asking. What were some of the things that were cleared up?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. And then the other two things where they added an if any, and where there were clearly inequities for our community, but I think they included that because they they don't want it in writing, basically, to say that there are inequities, because we need to explore and look through where are all of those inequities, and certainly if there are other kinds of inequities through the city in terms of benefits or policies, that would be an opportunity to get those addressed as well, whether or not they're LGBT related or not. And so I think that was a very minor change, and I was very happy to see the result when it came out, what was going to be presented to be voted on. Were you?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I thought there were good changes. I thought they brought some clarity to the document and a little more explicit direction.
And I guess this, and I don't mean to put you on the spot on this one, but were the questions really just understanding the resolution? Was that a
Yes.
lot of the discussion?
Yes, it was. We worked this through a committee over 3 or 4 months, and we did a lot of work in that committee, but not everybody on the council is on that committee.
Sure.
And it had received quite a bit of press, but there were still people who weren't on the committee. And as you can well imagine, any time something like this starts to, take shape that there's going to be a vote, misinformation starts to kind of swirl around. That's not unusual. And so I think there was just some people needed to understand what exactly was this doing and where would it be leading to.
But I would think there would also be questions about, is this legal? Because of all the misinformation, as well as all the nonsense with the +1, I understand that's a legal way to do it, but all the nonsense like that went on with the dartboard and getting through their health care benefits for their gay employees.
Right.
A lot of that had to do with special rights and who do we count and how do we know, and
Right.
And I would think there was a lot of confusion there.
Same type of
on the
thing.
part-
And
Yeah.
the state ban on gay marriage really confounds this whole issue. Now, they had decided to take it into executive session before the ruling in San Antonio. So I think as soon as that ruling in San Antonio came down,
In fact, it came down during,
Oh, that's
before or
right.
during the executive session.
yeah. So that is starting to shed some light on the. But before then, Texas was, kind of up in the air. Were we going to be indeed the very last state in the country to drop our ban on gay marriage? So
I thought we would be.
I thought we'd.
Well, I thought it'd be us or Mississippi.
Right.
It's always
I
us in
told you,
Mississippi.
Mississippi is marriage equality state number 25.
Well, wait a minute. Are we 23?
We might end up being.
I think we're 23.
I said we made our predictions at the beginning of the year. I said I don't know where Texas is going to fall, and I don't know who the next 7 are. Marriage equality state, but number 25, that's Mississippi.
How'd
It'll
you
be by the
do
end of
on
the
your
year.
Oscar picks? Were you,
I hadn't seen any of the movies, and so it was totally
I'm
guesses.
just wondering
Right.
what your handicap is.
Total guesses.
Well, I wanted to renumber resolution section number 5. I thought that was a big one, which you kind of mentioned before, that the City of Dallas's legislative efforts will support state and federal legislation and administrative regulations that further equality and prevent discrimination against LGBT employees and citizens and their families. That's huge.
That's huge.
For people who don't know, cities do have some influence on a state level and apparently on a national level. Can you talk a little bit about that? How so?
We do. We have we employ professional lobbyists. There are a number of issues that we actively lobby in support of or against at the state and national level. And this really sends a message to where Dallas wants to be in that conversation. Now, we do have a process. The council has a legislative committee, and every year we look at a legislative agenda, and they decide what they want to advocate for and against. They create that. But this is, a resolution by 13 of the 15 saying this is important to us. And when you put your legislative agenda together, you need to be looking with an eye towards LGBT rights.
And for anybody who's listening who thinks, why are we spending money on lobbyists? Well, what the lobbyists are mostly lobbying for, it's highway funds and those kinds of things that just affect the city, dollars and cents. But then they're also lobbying and talking to legislators about other bills that are going through. ENDA is going through Congress, the Employment Non-Discrimination. And what the City Council is telling them is, when you happen to be in there talking about funding for an education project that's going through nationwide, it's okay for you to also say, and by the way, that Employment Non-Discrimination Act that you're on the fence about, Dallas is for it.
Right.
And if you're a Dallas congressman, we'd
And
like
it's
you to
not
vote
just
for it.
and it's not just, oh, by the way, it's to go in there on the day when they have nothing else to talk about and say, we heard City of Dallas wants you to vote for this. We believe in this.
I just didn't want it to sound like, well, we're hiring special lobbyists to go
Right.
up and...
Right.
They're already there.
They're already there, and they're talking about a whole variety of issues. There are probably 100 different issues that the city's concerned with that lobbyists do talk to Congress people
Yes.
and people in Austin about. We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink and Lerone Landis, and our guest today is Theresa O'Donnell, Assistant City Manager, and we'll be back with more right after this.
This is Jason Wright from Dallas, and I listen to Lambda Week 89.3 KNON.
And you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM. We're talking to Assistant City Manager Theresa O'Donnell. We're just talking about the resolution that passed this week, some of the provisions of it, how it can help, how it'll be implemented. Is there anything that you're thinking will probably be addressed first? It looked like pension stuff has already been looked at. So the process, it's not like the city was completely ignoring these things anyway. The city had been looking at certain ways that gays and lesbians are not treated.
Well, one of the things we didn't really talk about very explicitly is things happening with human resources and policies
Sure.
that might affect the trans community in particular. And I think it's really important that our listeners and others know, if you live or work in the city of Dallas, that the Human Resources Department at the City of Dallas is already working on this, but we want to make sure that there are very clear, for example, transition protocols so that everyone who's employed by the City of Dallas, and that's 13,400 employees, that's a lot of people, that everybody knows, what's going to happen, how to go forward, how to support each other through a process that may be unknown to many people.
And that's kind of what my question was. It's not like this resolution was just out of the blue something new. A lot of these things city's been looking at, like those kinds of things. You'd mentioned trans benefits, so let's talk about
and healthcare
some of those.
too.
And healthcare is a big one. With trans benefits, I joked at the beginning of the show that, if you're trans and you contract cancer, you really think you deserve medical care? There are certain cases where if somebody has transitioned, let's say, from male to female, that person might still contract prostate cancer.
Right.
And we don't have an example of somebody being denied in the city, but there are lots of examples of people being denied, people who are trans being denied medical benefits because that person is now a woman and a woman is not entitled to treatment for a prostate problem. But
So in and of themselves, treatment for prostate cancer is usually a covered benefit.
Normally, it's a covered
Healthcare
treatment for cancer is normally covered under your health policy. You would hope so.
But red flags are raised, and in part because of the way healthcare system is designed. There are a lot of automated systems out there that would just flag that because they've been told programmatically that this can't happen. Well, we know that's not true today, and these systems are rather archaic in that fashion. So, it's working with the coverage carrier and making sure that those things are in fact included for trans.
And one of the reasons that I asked that one in particular is that Nell Gaither, who was on our show a few weeks ago, talking about some of these issues, she had asked the previous city manager about those specific issues, and the answer coming back from different people in the city was different things, whether it would be covered or not. And that's kind of important to make sure that we can talk about transition benefits, but if somebody has a cancer that untreated will be fatal and treated is very treatable, we want to make sure that person is treated because a person should be treated for what that person has, not for what that person should or should not have.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of this really is getting into the details and really understanding exactly what the specific questions are and how to get them answered. One of the things that just for me, so we I have my wife and kids on my insurance policy, and that's fine. That's covered fine. But there's been so much confusion about what's pre-tax and what's post-tax coming out of my check that since this new year, every one of my paychecks is messed up. Every single one of them.
Wow.
Because they just can't get it right. And so I think it's that with the trans health care, we have to go in and be very specific, because if you talk to people just kind of broad brush, we'll cover that. But no, you have to go in there and really get to very specific details and say, will this be covered? And we might have to get, the healthcare specialists in from United Healthcare, because they have our plan, and ask them in this instance, because I know how aggravating it is just to every other week. You just, okay, Molly, my check's messed up again. And I would hate to be a trans person having to deal with, all of the medical issues that you might have to be dealing with anyway, and have to go through that kind of just annoyance, that constant annoyance. When
And I know what you're talking about with the check being messed up, because several years ago I filed my taxes, and IRS sent me something back that showed that I was dead.
Yeah.
So I contacted my accountant, told him, fix this, and you don't have to get back in touch with me unless I'm alive, because if I'm dead, it won't matter.
Right.
It took months for them to straighten it out, and what it was they were pulling my father's Social Security number, and my father had died during that period, and confusing it with mine. Why? I guess the reason why was because he was a dependent of mine for 2 years while he had Alzheimer's. So I went in and asked my HR department where I was working at the time, I said, since I'm dead, can you stop making any deductions from my paycheck? And they couldn't do that.
Can't call in gay or call in dead.
Couldn't call in dead, no. And they made me keep going to work during that period. That was the other thing I asked.
It's so insensitive.
During the period that I'm dead,
you still
do
have
I
to go
have
to work?
to continue going to work? And if I don't, will I continue? I had questions.
Oh, sure, I bet so.
So these kinds of things need to be answered. But seriously.
It's those kind of things. Because, we're so stressed when you're undergoing any kind of a medical procedure. And you already feel like your privacy is being invaded. So for just to have to go through that extra headache, it's not right. Mm-hmm. We need to get it straightened out.
Right.
And I think, one of the fundamental things that will change when marriage equality hits everywhere is that when people are married in the state of Texas and they work for the city of Dallas, or they work for, a private company, or for Exxon, for example, over in Irving, that those putting your spouse and your children on your health insurance will all be pre-tax, because right now LGBT people with many employers, that's considered income. Like
yes,
you've gained this money and you have to pay taxes.
Although the federal government has ruled no now.
Right.
And you can go back 3 years and readjust your taxes if you'll save money off of it.
That's if you're married.
If you're married.
Right.
If you're just getting it through a spouse, no.
Right.
Through a partner that you're not married to. Yeah.
So lots of changes ahead.
Yeah, lots of changes.
What about transitioning? The argument against that is always something stupid like, well, if you offer that, then everybody's going to want to get it. and
this lines up exactly with the one where they say, well, if gay people are accepted, then there will, the civilization as we know it, the whole human race will disappear and die and go extinct.
That's right.
Like, seriously?
Yeah. That's right, because if they legislate that there's equality, everybody will have to be gay.
Right.
With transition benefits, I know the statistics in San Francisco were the first year that they offered benefits for transitioning, 2 people took advantage, and on average, they do 1 a year.
Right.
And so it's
remarkably low. It's remarkably low.
Because the number of trans people, it's a percentage, but it's a certain number. Right. Plus, if you're trans, not everybody wants to go through transition surgery.
Right. I think that one of the other big myths is that it is just kind of a choice as opposed to a medical necessity. I think the medical community understands this as a medical necessity. It's not just something that you wake up on Thursday and decide you want to, transition. That just shows the lack of education.
Has there been any discussion about that in the city?
To my knowledge, no, but I do know that the manager has been meeting with the head of our HR department, and she's looking at those things. But I haven't been included in those discussions.
But that is something that
Yes, they're talking about that.
that they are talking about.
Yes.
And as a result of this resolution, again, the sense of the council is see what we can do about it at least.
Yes.
And when I'm putting it that way, just because the resolution is passed doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect within a certain period of time.
No, but the resolution does require the city manager to report back on a quarterly basis about what he's done. So that will, give him a really definite incentive to move these issues forward.
And they're going to be, and for our listeners who don't maybe know about the Dallas, the charter for the city of Dallas, this is a city manager basically run city. Form of government, and so the council is there, and they are empowered in policy matters and such, but they're not. The mayor, for example, is the city council. The mayor and the city council certainly work an agenda. They have interests that they want accomplished, but their really only big power there is to hire and fire the city manager.
Right.
And so the city manager runs the city. So there's going to be a period of defining what the city manager is empowered to do without the council, what only the council can advance, and where there are other players, for example, pension boards that are independent, or others that may come into play.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that that's got to be parsed out and figured out, and then a more detailed roadmap.
Right. Right.
On each little item.
Right. And we do have a relatively new city manager. A.C. Gonzalez was just appointed in the last month or so as the city manager.
Mm-hmm.
So he has an opportunity now to kind of chart his course.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any timetables set out to reach these goals?
I think what he's doing now, he's called a pretty large meeting of all the department heads that are in charge of each of these different pieces for in the next week or two. Spring break's kind of got everything at City Hall kind of in limbo for a little bit, but just to make his assignments and start to prioritize these, and so he can have his game plan about when things will come back and what needs to happen.
One of the things that's been in the news, and this is going off topic gay, is DISD home rule.
Right.
Explain what that is even.
Gosh, I just know what I've read about it in the paper, which is...
but the three of us don't read the paper, so...
Okay. Okay. So what it is, it's an opportunity for the voters to decide, 25% of the voters to decide, if DISD should have its own charter, if you will, and be released from the state requirements. Now, there are people who are looking on the kind of positive side of that, which are they could have longer school days, they could have a longer school year, they could probably have more flexibility in their labor contracts. And then there is the kind of negative side of that this might be a power grab for an appointed board rather than the elected trustees. So there's not a lot known about it right now. Both of the sides are kind of trying to get their
how it's
messages
structured.
out.
I know the mayor would love all appointed trustees. I think voters probably would still like voted trustees. Is that set in stone? If we got home rule, is it set in stone which it would be?
I'm not sure. I think it would be appointed. I'm really talking off, outside my expertise. I think from my own point of view, the number of people that turn out for a trustee election is so low. I don't know whether that's a fair voter representation anyway.
Are there any other independent school districts in the state that have a home rule?
Not that I'm aware of. It would be
I've never heard of this.
completely new.
Okay.
It would be a completely new kind of endeavor. For
So is this something that we just came up with here in Dallas and said we want to get rid of it, or is there something that allows us to do that?
Oh no, you can do it. There's enabling legislation under in the state, but I don't know that anybody's taken advantage of it yet.
Gotcha. I'm highly skeptical. I want to see more about it. I know a massive funder is a big billionaire from Houston who's going to be contributing money to this effort. So, I'm thinking, how much home rule can that be if it's bankrolled by somebody from a completely different city?
Right.
But, I'd like to see what it is, because I think appointed versus elected, for example, that's a big deal.
It is.
Yes.
It's in terms of
That's a big
holding it
deal.
accountable and allowing it to become a big, huge power grab.
And
There's
then-
just a lot about it that I just think
You
we
said
need to learn.
school day could be longer, school year could be longer, but what it can't be is shorter. There are certain by-law things that the area would have to do, right?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Supposedly, from what I've been told, there have been efforts to actually make the school year shorter because it would save the state money.
But that would be the state.
Right. One of
There
the
are
problems-
minimums legally.
One of the problems with the summer break is for kids, especially low income and minority kids, that learning gap in the summer is really highly detrimental.
Yeah,
That's
because you
Patty's
spend the
problem.
first 6 weeks retraining
Right,
or
retraining.
reteaching
Right.
what they learned.
Right.
Patty
the
came back
last
to
year.
school each year, and it was like starting with a
It's like she's
6-year-old.
late every
each
week, as I understand, right?
Right.
But my Chris and I, we had our daughters in DISD, and we tried really hard for the first 5 years. We got in their elementary school and were active when our eldest was 3. And we chartered an ECPTA, and we got the PTA reestablished, and we just really, really worked hard. And the learning gap between the economically disadvantaged kids and the not economically is immense. It's just amazing. We really liked our school because it was a dual language school. So, like the first year we had our daughter in, she's in kindergarten and she can already read, and the other kids didn't know their colors, shapes, and numbers, So we thought, okay, well, she's going to be learning Spanish while the other kids are kind of catching up. But we saw that gap start in kindergarten, and by the time our eldest was in 3rd grade, we pulled her out because the gap was just so large that we just didn't feel like she could get a quality education. Either of them could. So we homeschool now, and we were very involved. Krista quit her job full-time as a professor at Texas Women's University to volunteer full-time at that school. And we had a very engaged, active parent group. It was small, but it was very, and I got to tell you, the bureaucracy at DISD we could not move the dial, not a notch on that school. It was very disheartening.
In a home-ruled district, you feel very possibly, and obviously we don't have answers to this yet, this has just been floated, a home-ruled district might be able to do more in the local school itself.
It seems to me that, and we were in a very we were in a relatively affluent part of Dallas. So I don't know what kind of hope there is for schools that don't have those kind of resources in the southern sector or in West Dallas. So something drastic has to change.
The other question I had, and
DISD.
I'm sure you don't have an answer to this, is since DISD is not co-determinate with the city of Dallas, appointing DISD board members, how would that work for areas like that are Seagoville or Wilmer Hutchins that are part of DISD?
So I don't know that I guess some of DISD is in Richardson.
It is.
And maybe in Plano.
And part of
Right. So
Richardson ISD is in Dallas.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
would
it's-
have to be.
Yeah.
I think Dallas has 9 different school districts in it, actually. They would have to be representative across the spectrum.
Yeah. Huh.
Right.
The other question, we have 1 minute really. How soon till we see some of those ditches dug in the Trinity River to have those little mosquito lakes?
I think those are
kinda
those are underway. Those are going to be fabulous. Just wait.
Okay. And actually, that was the thing that Philip Kingston was berated about because he just didn't feel that. Anyway, that brings us to the end of another Lambda Weekly. Theresa, thanks so much for being with us.
Teresa.
And
Thank you.
come
Thank
back,
you
see
for
us
being
again.
Fun.
we hope you'll come back again sometime.
Sure. That'd be great.
And we'll be back next week with more Lambda Weekly.
That went well, I thought.
KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to knon.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.